The nature of light. Light is a wave. How long that wave determines wavelength, and how high it is determines amplitude. Frequency is the speed of light over wavelength. So, which wavelength is what? So, there's visible light, and on the farther spectrum, there's gamma rays, which have very short, choppy waves. Then there's X-rays, which also have short, choppy waves, but a little bit expanded. Then there's the UV rays, which are a little bit expanded. Then there's visible light, infrared, microwaves, and radio waves. So, what wavelength determines that? So, the more wavelength there is in between means the less energy that's being used, and the less wavelength in between means there's more energy being used. Okay, so pigment absorption. So, chlorophyll A, as you can see, absorbs a lot of the blues and a lot of the reds, but doesn't absorb a lot of the green, yellows, and oranges. While chlorophyll B gets a lot of blues, but gets none of the green, yellow, and orange, and gets a little bit of the red. And you can see B, which is the red, is carotene, and carotene gets a lot of blue and a lot of green, and gets nothing else. So, plants are green, so that means that plants don't absorb green well, which means they reflect that. Okay, so the structure of the chloroplast. The chloroplast is an organelle inside of a plant cell. So, inside of the chloroplast, there are thylakoids that look like pancakes, and the grana is a stack of those thylakoids, and so the stroma is the outside surrounding the thylakoids, and the chloroplast also has an inner and outer membrane.
As you know, photosynthesis is the process that plants use to create food for themselves. This process involves a number of reactants that, with the help of a catalyst, which is the sunlight, creates products. The reactants in photosynthesis are 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules. The catalyst, sunlight, as I said, helps create glucose, 1 glucose molecule, and 6 oxygen molecules.
So we're going to do light-dependent reaction. That happens in the thylakoid membrane. In the first step, 2 H2O molecules split up into O2 and 2H plus gas. Then after that, the electrons that are made from the splitting go into photosystem 2. Now remember, it's photosystem 2 because that was discovered first. Then the light energy from the outside comes in and charges and the electrons and sends it down the electron transport chain. Now while it's going down, it goes through various electron pumps where H plus from outside of the thylakoid membrane come inside. Now while it's going down, it arrives at photosystem 1. Now at photosystem 1, it's re-energized for a second time through light energy and put through the NADP plus reductase. Now that takes NADP plus and turns into NADPH, an electron carrier. Now for the last step, it takes the H plus. Remember the H plus inside the thylakoid membrane? That goes through ATP synthase, spinning a rotor which takes ADP plus P and turning it into ATP.
The second part of photosynthesis is called the Calvin cycle. In the Calvin cycle, the first step is called carbon fixation, where 6 CO2 molecules enter the cycle and join with 6 5-carbon molecules called RUBP molecules, and from this, 6 carbon molecules are formed. Each of the 6 carbon molecules split into 12 3-carbon molecules called PGA molecules.
Who's that?
The second step of the Calvin cycle is called reduction. And in reduction, each PGA molecule takes in energy from the incoming NADPH molecules and the ATP molecules. The new high-energy 3-carbon molecules are now called G3P or PGAL. The third step of the Calvin cycle is where glucose is formed. In this glucose formation step, 2 of the G3P molecules leave the cycle and form into glucose. In the fourth step, which is called regeneration, the 10 remaining G3P molecules that are still in the cycle regenerate into 6 RUBP molecules, and this takes ATP energy.